I should call the meeting to order at 7:01. All right, call the meeting to order at 7:01. Public participation. I see Carol on the line. Carol or others, do you have inspiration for us this time? Hearing none. Susie, I want to check in with you. I know that you have limited time. And I'm wondering if you would like to do your update before we do the minutes, or do you want to do that first?
No, you can go ahead and do the minutes.
Okay. So we sent out the Robin sent out the minutes last week, and I sent them again today. Are there any edits or changes for her? I know I sent you one, Robin, on the total number of compost bins. I think compost subscribers. I think I saw on Black Earth was 348 or something. I think 165 had signed up through the town program, and there were some that signed up on their own. So our total penetration is a little higher than I think was in the notes, but.
So Anne's actually on. Could you correct the minutes? Do you remember? So last month you said 100 and something. Was that new members? Is that clarify?
Correct. We're up to 172 as of this morning.
Okay.
So Robin, I think they're breaking out the 172, and is it correct that that's just those that have signed up under the town program for the bins and stuff,
Yes.
and then the total is the number that Myron gave?
Correct.
Okay. So I motion to approve the September meeting minutes with the edit of clarifying the 172 is new members, not total members.
I'll second.
Oh, let me, I have you all. All right, I'll call the roll in the order that I see you on my screen. So Tom?
Aye.
Me, yes. Robin?
Yes.
Melissa?
Yes.
Anne?
I'm going to pass.
Susie?
I'm also going to abstain. I didn't have a chance to read them. I apologize.
No problem. Mary?
Yes.
Is that a quorum?
It is. 6 is a quorum.
Great. If it's okay with folks, first of all, I want to welcome Jen McDonald, who's joined us from the town. I'm really excited for Jen's contribution to the committee. If it's okay with folks, I want to welcome Marie and ask Marie if there's anything you'd like to say to the committee. As we did public participation already, but if there's anything you'd like to add, we'd be happy to hear from you.
Thanks, Myra. I'm just actually going to listen tonight and, see, I haven't been on in a while, so I want to just listen and, see what's
Great.
going on. So thanks for having me.
Great, welcome. If it's okay with folks, I want to just change the agenda up a little bit because I want to be sensitive to Jen McDonald's time. Maybe Susie, I should check in with you again. I know that you're pressed for time. So if we do this part first and then your update, is that all right?
Yep, that works.
Okay.
You can go, Susie. My only holdup is that I got to go watch the town council meeting. So it's not anything pressing. You can go if you need to.
Yeah, I was going to give a quick update from schools, mostly around a recycling request that had come from a science teacher at the Galvin that had made its way to Mike Boudreau, who then gave it to me. and I connected Andy Bray, and Melissa, was it you that was also involved in that?
Yeah.
Okay. your last name looks different than what I remember was on the email, but that just could be me. Sorry.
No, I had my emails, but still my maiden name. I'm a little behind.
Okay. All right. So I'm not going crazy because I was like, I was pretty sure it was you, but the name didn't look right to me. So, okay. So yeah. So now I can talk through this without being embarrassed that I don't really know who was involved. Okay. So I got this email that a Galvin science teacher was kind of interested in getting the recycling up and going again, and but didn't want to get Meg, the principal, involved quite yet because she was really busy just kind of getting off to the beginning of the school year. I put Melissa and Andy in touch with Tim O'Brien, who is our new facilities guy. And it sounds like they had a really good meeting. I think it was earlier this week or last week. Joe Conway from DPW was a part of that meeting and kind of talked through all of the things that we had been working through 2 years ago that kind of got stopped in its tracks with COVID. And, you know, we now have recycling contracts that make actually picking up recycling at the Galvin possible. Sounds like there was some discussion about getting some bins. And now it's kind of time to take it to Melissa. Sorry, to Meg. And Meg is the principal at the Galvin. And so I brought it forward at a subcommittee meeting that I had this morning with Doug, the superintendent, and Tim O'Brien from facilities was there, and 2 other school committee members along with me, and just said like, hey, actually Tim gave the update. Tim talked about the meeting happening, and I just said to Doug, you know, are we comfortable with kind of allowing this to kind of move forward now that we're getting kind of into the swing of things, and we don't think it's a heavy lift for Meg. Really, it's a, hey, Meg, we think we can do this. This is what's going to happen. The other thing that's always been a question in the past is a custodial support, and kind of, you know, whether that's able to happen without any kind of discussion about contracts and negotiations and such. And so that Tim had that all worked out. So the only concern that Doug had when we spoke about it this morning was wanting to get Tim in touch with the science teacher to make sure that we're all clear on kind of what the science teacher's intent is. Is she trying to start a recycling club? Is she just trying to get recycling going at the school? So there's a couple of like small remaining questions that Tim is going to get in touch with the science teacher just to make sure that everybody's kind of on the same page about what's happening. And then I think from there it will go in front of Meg. And I think that this, once the bins are made available, we should be in good shape.
Yeah, I mean,
So-
there's also the education piece. That's
Okay.
pretty major. Just teaching students like how to recycle properly, what goes in the bin. I think that's going to be a big part of rolling this out.
Did you guys talk about that at all during those meetings?
Yeah, so I mean, Andy is way more familiar with the education piece and has, I think, done it at a number of different schools. So he can probably help with that, and I will certainly help with that. It's just a matter of kind of, we would have to go in there probably and kind of monitor the situation at first, and then maybe get some volunteer students to help out as well. So yeah, it would just kind of be organizing that. And yeah, we need the bins to start out too.
Right.
You know,
So-
placing them in the right place in the cafeteria, and then
Are we talking, I mean, from the email from the science teacher, I mean, in some ways, I think she was just like, we are just throwing away a ton of paper, like, you know, very low hanging fruit in terms of sort of classroom supplies. So are we talking about, is the scope sort of to go all in with all like lunch and all the recycling that can be done? Or is the conversation to sort of start, you know, as soon as you say the word, we need to go in, I know that's going to be a barrier, right? There's no volunteers in the school this year, as far as I understand it. But I'm wondering sort of if that was discussed, is it all in, or is it like a staged approach?
I mean, the only thing we talked about was the cafeteria, which already has like built-ins that, you know, are perfect for this sort of thing. They already have them set up. We just need the bins there. But we didn't talk about like paper recycling classrooms or anything like that. They already are recycling cardboard there. So, yeah, I guess.
So I'll get some clarity on the paper thing, because Tim actually said that paper and cardboard were already being recycled. And I forgot, Myra, that was kind of the feeling that was given in the email from the teacher, that they're maybe not doing a good job at that. And so I can check in with Tim on why that might be, but Tim also confirmed that the focus really was on plastic in the cafeteria, and that you know, that would be a big win, if we could just get kind of all of the plastic being recycled. I do think, as you said, Myra, education is going to be slightly problematic. I do know that at our next school committee meeting, there's supposed to be a discussion about volunteers and the bringing back of volunteers into schools. I don't know what that's going to look like. I don't know what the limitations are going to be. I'm sure there will be some. And so it'll, I think, and that is a topic for the meeting that's happening on the 26th. So I think, you know, if we're heading down the right path, we're going to get some bins, which probably won't happen overnight. Then hopefully we'll have some clarity around volunteers. Hopefully, you know, we can get Andy in, or, you know, is the science teacher going to take on some of that responsibility? I don't know. And I do think it's important that we figure out kind of what role the science teacher wants to play in this. So yeah, so I think there's still a couple of open questions, but I think certainly some progress is being made. So I'll stay on top of this and try to get some of those open questions answered. And then
I guess, Susie, do you recommend us having a call with Meg, or?
I don't yet. Let's have Tim have the conversation with the teacher. It's not clear to me who's going to have the conversation with Meg. And again, I think it may be like, hey, Meg, this is what we're going to do. And it may be Tim, like it may be, right? Like I think Doug kind of felt like if it's really just an inform, not an ask, like that might be okay. If all of the details are kind of figured out and it's more Tim saying like, hey, we got these bins together. The custodians are going to take them out. Like the science teacher is going to go over it with kids, or, you know, we've got this volunteer lined up. So it may be Tim that's going to send that email. But I can try to get some clarity on that too. Okay. But I think for right now, let's hold on the kind of the outreach to Meg until I get a little bit more information from kind of Tim and potentially Doug.
Okay, great.
Yeah, it's good though. I mean, I think we had a lot of stuff kind of ready to go, and then COVID hit. So it's great that we can kind of get back on it and really make it happen. I
just want to say, I mean, it feels really good. I feel like when a community member, especially a teacher, but, you know, any community member sort of brings a question and we're able to say yes, I feel like that just makes me feel good about this committee. So thank you to all of you who are doing all the work.
Yeah, it is. I mean, it definitely is a continuation, right, of work, but it's nice to have an advocate inside the school pushing for it, right? Like, I think we didn't really have that. It was all kind of outsiders saying, and students, which I mentioned this morning, like we've also with the civics projects, a whole bunch of kids were asking about recycling in the classrooms. So it's not like this is coming out of nowhere. There's been lots of kids who've been asking and advocating for it also. And so I think that's an important element of this, that I could see it coming up again as a civics project if we don't do anything. And I'm, you know, I don't want to get ahead of ourselves, but certainly as the volunteer stuff becomes kind of more clear and we understand what we can have volunteers do, like I'd love to see us get back on the food rescue, but you know, I don't want to also push it too hard. So I think we should wait to see what the volunteer guidance is. And then we could certainly talk about whether that makes sense to try to get up and running again, if we could get the parent volunteers to help. My only other update is around the green communities work and the piece of it that has to do with oh my gosh, the
The
purchase of green.
Yeah, it has to do with the fleet policy.
Right, the fleet
you all have to
policy.
pass the fleet policy.
Yes, so Steve Mayo sent an email, I don't know, maybe it was soon after our last meeting, because I hadn't gotten it. It was probably within days of our last meeting, asking that we put that on the agenda for both. We need to have it on the agenda 2 different times. I'm not sure exactly why. I don't know if it's because we're laying the policy on the table and then we're voting on it, or what it is exactly, but in November and December, we're going to have that on the agenda. So that is moving along also.
Great. I think town council has that on the agenda tonight.
Oh, okay.
Their piece of it. And so I think that's the first step, and then gas and light and school committee follow that.
Got it. That's probably why the timing kind of lines up the way that it does. I think that's all my updates. I mean, the high school project stuff is kind of moving along. I know in the meeting I heard this morning that the SMMA folks were out doing like their tour of the high school, which is like they're looking at every nook and cranny of the building. And so that's good. And then I think Tim said that somebody's coming out, like a different kind of engineer is going to come out and look at the site for like where there's wetlands and where they can't build, and kind of what room do we really have for the site to work with. So that work is progressing. I honestly don't know a lot more beyond that with kind of where the project is at. I haven't heard about any community sessions yet getting scheduled or anything like that, but I would assume that that's going to start to happen soon. Anything that you guys were wondering about that I'm not? I have not asked Danielle Collins Food Services about the styrofoam. I think most folks that follow the news know that food services and the supply chain issues and the fact that lunch is free there's a lot going on in food services, and she is fully focused on feeding our kids. And so I am not going to be asking her any questions about what's going on with styrofoam, but I know we're going to have to get a waiver by the end of the year. But I'm really trying to honor, like, I just know she's working really, really hard and trying to keep our freezers full. And it's really, really a challenge to get food and to get the right kind of food and to get produce. We got an update on that today too. Anything else that people are thinking that maybe I haven't thought about that you guys need an update on? Okay, then I think that's it from me.
That's great. Thank you, Susie.
Yep.
We would love your contributions if you have. I mean, I know you have other things going on, but to the next conversation, based on your communications background, if you have minutes, if not, we totally understand.
Okay, I'll try to stay on for a few.
So we're going to go next to item 5, which is around, I put it on here as idling and signage, but I just want to frame the issue a little bit. And then I reached out to Jen McDonald, who kindly gave me all kinds of really fascinating ideas about how we can think about this issue of idling in the community. And so this issue came up from a couple of community members actually have talked to me or to others, and it was sent to me recently about the issue of cars idling and or trucks idling. And the issue is that there is an anti-idling law in Massachusetts. Idling has a significant impact on air quality, and it is illegal in Massachusetts to idle your car more than 5 minutes, except if you are there's some exceptions, like you're receiving goods, or there's some, or it's like school buses, I think, are exempted from the law. DPW trucks in some capacities are exempted. But I also think it's not a law that's well understood. And so we had some questions come from community members about particular locations in town, or just sort of seeing a lot of idling and wondering if this is an issue that the ESC might be interested in taking up. And so, I think that there's a couple of questions that came up about how we could move forward. If the, is it best to sort of put some signs up in certain locations? I think that there's a lot of education. It's interesting. I reached out to a couple of people that I know that are environmentally focused in town, people in town who are environmentally focused. And I said, what do you think about idling? And they were like, it's illegal to idle. And so to me, it was a little bit of a, maybe public education, or maybe sort of this would be an issue that as we think about public education, this would be an opportunity. And so Jen gave some ideas and graciously offered to join. And so I'm just wondering if we can have a conversation about what do people think about this? Is this really a priority? And Jen, I don't know if I could put you on the spot to sort of share some of your ideas about communication strategies or thoughts of if we think that this is a priority.
Sure. Can I share my screen?
Absolutely.
Okay. And I'm not trying to be formal. I make them to keep myself.
I love it. I might need to make you a co-host to make you to
Okay.
be able to share your screen. But if I do need to do that, I think I know how to do it.
Okay. And hello, I know a lot of you here, but hi to those that I have not met yet. Maybe we'll meet in person someday, or at least virtually again. Okay, I think I got it.
We do have 2 new members, Jen, and I'm not sure. I think that you've been to one of our meetings in the past, but we do have 2 new members that you may not have met. So we have Sean Cash and Melissa Houston, who joined us in May.
I see Melissa like once a month, I think.
Oh,
on
right, of
another
course,
call,
of
yes.
course. It's just Sean. Sean's our economist, and
Hi,
so he has
Sean.
really interesting views on how to solve big problems.
Awesome.
Good to meet you, Jennifer.
Great to meet you. Yeah, so I just, Myra reached out this morning. I don't know a lot about idling, but I love the creative. So I just put some ideas together. You can take it how you want to go with it. Totally up to you. Just some ideas that I had. Okay, so to get the word out, what I would suggest, if your goal is education, because I'm guessing you want, your goal is to make sure people know why they shouldn't do it, and not just, let me see a sign, hey, I want to avoid that $100 fine that no one's ever going to come and give me anyway. So if that's your goal, really education, I would encourage you to think of it as a campaign. There are multiple components of it because people receive information in different ways, but all of those components should coordinate and they should support each other. So you can do that a lot of ways. Usually it's visual. It can be the messaging. It could be a tagline or some kind of branding. I'll show you some examples, but having that consistency makes more impact. So I pulled a couple. These are not big campaigns, but just to show you, we needed public transit users to fill out a survey for us. This is pre-COVID, obviously. We were putting in a proposal for enhanced service and we needed some data. So we did, it was a very small target audience, and we did A-frame posters at train stations. And the idea was, do you have a minute to take our survey? And of course you do, because you're sitting waiting for the train. So we had posters, and then we had social posts. They all complemented the web, and then we actually had printed handouts that some of our town councilors would hand out to people while they were waiting for the train. So the idea was, you might see the poster Monday, and then Thursday you might see a social post and say, oh yeah, I think I saw something kind of similar to that at the station. And then someone might give you a card the next week, and you'd be like, right, I recall. And they all bounce off each other. And I'm sure you can think of some campaigns in your head that are similar. So these aren't all exactly the same, but they complement one another. Another one we did that I'm sure all of you are familiar with as the environmental committee is the compost with Black Earth. So we did posters and social posts, and other imagery. And I don't know if anybody ever got that they rhyme. French toast, compost. Dinner on the coast, compost. Did anybody get that? So again, it's not exactly the same, but you can see a lot of the elements tie into one another. and help create kind of a cohesive campaign. This wasn't a huge campaign, but you get the idea that you can do this kind of thing with visuals. So when you are creating materials, if you want to go that route, I would suggest when you find a great factoid that you keep a note of your source. I would encourage you to use reputable ones, like I was on the Mass DEP today, just getting myself educated a little bit so I could talk to you. You know, that I would say is a reputable source. If you have any kind of data point, you know, joesblog.com, I don't know. So just, you know, think about that when you're making your things, especially if it could be in any way controversial. I know sometimes environmental things can be controversial. So understand your audience. If I asked, who do you want to know this stuff? You'd probably say everyone, and that is a great goal to have. But do you have specific groups? And I happen to look on, again, Mass DEP, and it's interesting you said that buses and municipal trucks are exempt, or you think they are, because they cited the 3 groups that are the worst offenders are parents in school lines, school bus drivers, and municipal vehicles. So, you know, and I'm not saying that is true of Wakefield, but this is just what they happen to say. So if you do find, for example, that those 3 groups are big offenders here in Wakefield, or maybe they're just ones that you think that you can reach easily, think about how you can target them. Yes, you do want everyone to be educated, but it can make a lot of impact when you speak to those people in ways that they understand. So again, some ideas off the top of my head to complement the ones that you come up with. Your materials, what form are they? Might be posters. We have someone on your call who is in an amazing WCAT piece. Thank you, Nick. Infographics. Maybe you host a webinar to teach people. Social posts. So there are a lot of different channels that you can use to get your messaging out. So let's just say we do find that municipal folks, you know, public works trucks are big offenders, and maybe they are exempt, but maybe there are ways that they can limit the idling. Maybe you can connect with Ann and say, hey, is there any way we can make some training materials for your staff? Or can we host a webinar with your staff so that they can learn, you know, when and where they can and cannot idle, or ways to reduce the idling that they maybe need to have. Maybe you could partner with local auto schools. Maybe they would agree to hand out an informational item to all of their students, or maybe they would pledge to teach about the idling law one time during their 6-week course, whatever it is, because like you said, a lot of people probably never even knew this existed. You know, if you want to continue this into the spring or start it in the spring when events start popping back up, you can have info booths where people can talk to you and get more information about it. And I have an asterisk here because, again, I don't know if they are the biggest offenders here in Wakefield, but if they are parents in lines, you know, let's connect with the administration, the PTOs, maybe even the student council, the kids teaching their parents to get the message. Because, again, you're going to speak to them a little bit differently than you might speak to another group. And I did also see anecdotally in one of the DEP things that, you know, now that everything's virtual, parents aren't just picking up their kids, they're getting there early so that they can be on meetings in their car. So they're actually getting there earlier than they need to be and maybe idling. So those are just, again, some things off the top of my head. I'd love to have a conversation about it, or you may find that, you know what, this is too big of a direction for you and you really are just more interested in, you know, the fine aspect of it. But I feel like you want to educate. But it's a lot of work, but it's fun.
Can you hear me now? Hello?
No, I hear you, Myra.
We heard you, Myra.
Yeah, we can hear you.
Now we
You went-
can't. Now you
went
muted
back on
yourself.
mute.
My Zoom is acting very strangely, and so I'm going to reset my computer in a moment. But that was great, Jen. Thank you so much. And I just wanted to bring the issue, if anybody has sort of thoughts about this, this is an issue that's come up a couple times, I think, in discussion. And if you all have thoughts on whether this is a priority, whether what we think about our bandwidth as well as our capacity to reach out, and just sort of general reactions of the committee. And the meeting should continue, and I will be right back after I reset.
So just personally, this issue actually is near and dear to my heart, only because I live next to a household that idles for 15 to 20 minutes every morning, multiple diesel trucks. So it's both a sound issue as well as an air quality issue for me. But to target one household is not going to happen. But I do see it just walking my dog and seeing the schools around me of parents either pick up or drop off coming early. And it's not seasonally dependent on them running their cars. So, it's not air conditioning necessarily or heating. It's just, they just don't turn off their cars. So I would love if, we get the word out. I mean, yes, we have the law behind us, but it kind of just makes, I don't know, my mind, just teaching them it makes sense that they need to think twice about just leaving their car running.
I agree, and I think a focus, not only air quality and all of that, but just dollars saved. An idling vehicle is literally spending money, whether it is, own personal funds or, collectively municipal fund, as taxpayers and ratepayers, we're all paying for that fuel for that vehicle. And also wear and tear as well. Some things, just one thing to note, although the technology is changing, but emergency vehicles, DPW trucks, anything that have light sets, unfortunately, the technology that are in some of the vehicles require the vehicle to be running to run those light sets. So when a cruiser is just sitting there with its lights on, it has to be idling in order to run the lights.
And the law doesn't, I think it's worded saying that if you need to run your car for safety or the operation. So the example that I think of is anything running like an asphalt truck needs to keep the asphalt warm to work. They're exempted.
Correct.
So.
Correct. Yeah.
I just did a little Googling, and Argonne National Labs does have an idling reduction savings calculator. I don't know if we could try to play around with that to think of something that might be a credible number for messaging in terms of dollars that could be saved across the town if X number of people reduce idling. I certainly think that messaging it in problem areas like schools and everything else would serve it makes sense, because maybe would at least get people to stop idling in those places, or less likely to, as well as serve general education purposes. Robin, I don't know if we can go for specific messaging with your neighbors or not, but it's in those ways it seems compelling. It's air quality, it is noise, and it's also we see increasing prices for gas. It's a use of gas that competes with other uses of gas. So even beyond the air quality, and savings, there's a lot of reasons to try to promote it. If we can find a fun way of doing it that goes along with the type of messaging we looked at with the composting, great.
I've been tempted to buy an idling sign for my street for a neighbor as well. So.
I'm wondering also if, not only, sometimes the signs that just say no idling under, and state the statute in the fine, it's all well and good, very plain and dry, but potentially, a more fun messaging, especially, in school areas and in places where idling have, you kind of see those campaigns tying back to the stuff that Jennifer just said, these things tie back. But having kind of a fun campaign, some kind of catchy slogan and maybe, some sort of funnish graphic that is more impactful than just simply a sign that says no idling and states the statute and a fine. Maybe more impactful and get the message across.
There's lots of examples online that show a mother and a child and smoke spewing into their face. So there's lots of grab your attention examples that we could use.
And I just thought too, so many people have auto start on their car in the winter. And that's all it is idling, right?
Yep.
You're not even in your car. Yep.
I'll also make a plug for, as we transition to EVs, anyone that is an EV owner, electric vehicle owner, one of the features of those vehicles is they are plugged into your house while they're waiting for you in the morning, and they will preheat or pre-cool your cabin using your house electricity. So it would reduce the fossil fuel emissions that happen from the idling that people do with that. So just something to kind of keep in mind there as well.
Although to be fair, it's still using electricity, which has air quality issues, so it's not totally clean.
Yeah, correct. But from that aspect, that is off the grid. And a vehicle, an EV is more efficient and is cleaner that way because it's the economies of scale. And so wherever that power is being generated, and maybe it is coming from a non-emitting source, but if it is coming from an emitting source, it's still centralized and is much easier to capture and scrub and reduce those carbon emissions.
Oh, my mistake. I was going to say,
doing better. That's all.
I mean, what I'm hearing is that folks feel this kind of is an issue and they're interested. So it should be kind of added to the agenda of the committee on education and see where kind of brainstorm in there as a capacity. Is that the vibe I'm getting, that folks think that it's some message we should be teaching people?
I see EPA has an idle-free schools toolkit as well. So I think there are some materials that we could start with and adapt rather than starting from scratch if we're focusing on schools as one of the key points.
That's great. And as a representative of the education subcommittee, I think that makes a lot of sense. And Jen, I'll follow up with you to see, I know you have a lot on your plate, so how we could leverage your expertise, as well as maybe bring a proposal back to this committee in the next meeting around how we would the materials that we might think about.
Cool, happy to help.
And I don't know, I'm sorry that I just had this drama with my computer. I don't know if you talked about it all. I mean, I know that DPW, some trucks are exempt. Like if you're in the middle of service or something. And I also know that this has been something that Joe has talked about in the past, it being a somewhat it's in your handbook, and really thinking about how not just use the exemption as an excuse or as a reason not to pay attention to it. And so I don't know if there's thoughts within DPW around, I have seen some trucks, I know some others have seen some trucks that where it's unclear why they're idling, that they're there to like block traffic or something. And so I don't know if there's a process in DPW that you all use.
Yeah, well, it's interesting. Tom brought up the point of the lights. Maybe the next time we make a purchase, we can purchase different kind of lights that could run on their own or run on batteries versus having to have the car idle. Because I know what Tom's saying, sometimes it's an hour, it's sitting there because we're blocking a street and the lights are going. So
Okay.
certainly that's something. Plus the larger trucks that are diesel are more difficult to shut on and off, but certainly the lighter weight vehicle should be shut off when anyone gets out of the vehicle. So we can work on our education, a little bit of discipline there, and we can start working on that.
That's great. Sorry, I missed that part of the conversation. Any other thoughts on this, or any other suggestions or advice that you all have? Those are great resources that you cited, and I'm hoping Robin wrote some of them down, or you could send them, share them with the group. I think that would be great. Any other thoughts on this, assuming it's validation that this is a priority? All right. So we'll put on the agenda for next month with just sort of a proposal about what we think might work. And then we can go from there. And if you have any ideas in the meantime, please don't be shy.
Great, nice to see all of you. Have a nice night.
You too.
Bye-bye.
Oh, Robin, can you make me a host again?
Sure can. Hold on.
So I think the next thing that we wanted to talk about was just a little bit of a catch up on some of we had talked last time about making subcommittees, and I know that these are works in progress. And I think we've talked about some of the work that I was thinking about as subcommittees. We've already talked about, like, for example, Melissa working on waste reduction. And so I just wanted to put it on the agenda as a catch up and see if you all have anything to share, or just can give an update on where we are on each of the subcommittees. So Melissa, I know it's you and Rob on sort of thinking about waste reduction. Can you just catch us up if there's other issues that you've been working on or thinking about?
So I haven't talked to Rob at all.
Okay.
He hasn't said anything on some of the emails, but I can touch base with him. But as far as the styrofoam bylaw and the plastics reduction bylaw, I did get an update from Erin Kokita, who's the economic development director for the town. And she told me that there's definitely supply chain issues, as we all know there is right now. So she's also working to try to get some financing options and maybe some bulk buying options for small businesses to reduce costs. And so she said that she was going to give me some more information about that soon. But right now, I think it's just supply chain issues, as Susie said with the trays. Great.
Mary and Sean, I know you guys are formulating, sort of getting together on this idea of land protection. So you want to give an update or what you're thinking about?
Sure, I can jump in. So we haven't met yet, but we're going to huddle tomorrow to kind of draft a plan. Generally, I think we had a few, I personally, and I know Myra, you were in some of those, had a few kind of preliminary conversations with like Joe Conway and Bill, our town engineer. So we're thinking, since right now, technically a lot of this land they're the owner of, obviously it's important for their involvement. I think ultimately, though, we should have sort of a multi-departmental team of folks to think about this from the perspective of, we want to also align this with some of the work that either has been done with the Wakefield resiliency team or the Envision Wakefield planning efforts that are underway, so that we can complement and not sort of step on each other's toes, and kind of build upon that work that's been done and the planning that's been done. So I think we have a long way to go. But with that said, we are regrouping, and Myra, I know you're going to be on the call as well tomorrow to just talk through that a little bit more, brainstorm about, who this team should comprise. I think legal counsel too around the Chapter 97 law and increasing protections for some of this land. I know the other goals are really just around making more use of this land for wellness and health, right? We have a lot of beautiful areas that are really underutilized that I think people have made their own trails, and may or may not, other people may or may not be aware of those. So I think it's just, there's a lot of opportunity. I think it's a lot to think about. That being said, it's a little overwhelming, but if we can try to leverage some of the research that's been done on these projects that and teams that have already been, I think that'll be a good starting place. So that's it for me. I don't know, Sean. if
I
you-
volunteer to keep exploring the trails that other towns have created and sending you pictures of them.
I'm very inspiring. I liked that.
Yeah.
I agree with you though. Yeah, go ahead, Sean.
Oh, I absolutely agree. And actually, I think that there's some low-hanging fruit about just publicizing the recreational opportunities for things that are available. I don't think it's intentional, but I just noticed that there's not a single source for Wakefield the way there is for some other things, summarizing all the recreational land opportunities. And so beyond just the public education part of that, I think it also increases awareness and appreciation for what protected lands might do. And then Myra, I appreciate the things that you had shared over email before about also how this might tie in with some climate mitigation concerns as well. And so I think those are all things we can look at for the bigger picture. But certainly I agree, we shouldn't be looking to recreate the wheel or step on the toes of other committees that are, managing these lands or town offices that are directly involved. But I'm still surprised after living in the town for a while now that I know less about some of the things in the town than I know about things in surrounding towns.
We may need to take a subcommittee field trip to the Wakefield part of Reedy Meadow, because it is actually very beautiful. And
Yeah, I've never been there. Look, I've heard a lot about it. I know it's sort of overlaps Wakefield, right? And I know the rail trail intends to go through there. I remember that being a little bit controversial, but ultimately a nice balance with health and wellness.
Myra, is it true that maybe I'm wrong, but is the only legal access to the Wakefield portions of the land starting in Linfield, or is there publicly accessible trailhead
and you may know better. There is a sign. If you're driving sort of close to Market Street and you turn left, I think it's Audubon Road, and you go to the end where there's like a self-storage place. There's a sign there that says Wakefield Conservation Land, Reedy Meadow.
Yes.
But I don't know if that technically is in Linfield.
I think the lines, I can find out, but I think it's a wavy line there. Yeah.
Yeah, but it's a nice trail back there. Then you go out to a lake and people go skating out there. I think that there are some people who have learned, how to use that space, and it's really pretty. All right, so the last subcommittee is on the public education, and I'm going to turn it to Sophie, who's been working a little bit. Just as context, we agreed as a committee we were going to do a town-wide sort of litter cleanup effort in the spring. But in the meantime, I had some parents at the Woodville School come to me and say, wouldn't it be nice if and actually a teacher at the Woodville School was interested in doing a cleanup in that region. And we know the high school has long been an area. So Sophie has been sort of championing a little bit of work on the side, sort of a warm up for our spring cleanup. So Sophie.
Yes, no, I definitely think the one in the spring is a wonderful idea. And if we have the resources and everything, might as well do another one as well, right? Try and make the area as clean as possible, picking up litter, everything like that. And also, I think it's a great idea to have it starting at like an elementary school where we can kind of teach these kids all about like recycling from a young age to hopefully like embed that going forward. And maybe they could have that sort of initiative in themselves as they reach the high school or even future. So yes, we've been talking, Myra and I, and then Maggie Schaffer. We're going to meet again on Sunday, and she's been setting up some sponsors from what I've heard that we can use to either like get bags, gloves, different sort of resources that we would need to make this actually happen. And so the plan is that we're meeting on Sunday to kind of discuss these things and go over them. And right now we're kind of talking about how we're going to spread the word and get people to come and participate in it. And I know from personally, I'm part of the National Honor Society at the high school. And one of the things that we do, we have to collect like 20 service hours. And for like anything to count as a service hour, we just kind of have to have whoever is like in charge of the activity kind of sign off on that they're like volunteering or anything. I was thinking that this could possibly be I mean, it's up to you, Myra, if you think this would qualify as some sort of thing that you'd be willing to sign off on. But I think that would be a great way to get high school students at least to partake in it. And then again, at the elementary school level, hopefully we can target these younger kids and then embed their beliefs in recycling and clean environment up until the high school level and future. That's kind of what I was going off of. And then I'm open to any other ideas of spreading the word, or obviously we could use the Facebook page and other resources like that. But does anyone else have any ideas on how we can get the word out about this?
So I have a question. Are you looking to do an event this fall in addition to the spring? And if so, when
Yes.
would that be?
Do we have a specific date yet?
I don't think we have a date yet. I think we're looking at mid-November, and it's not necessarily as an ESC event. I mean, I
Yeah.
think what we had talked about our sort of ESC event, coordinated event in the spring. But I do think, it relates partly because it's an area of interest and partly because, I think what we're trying to do is spread the word around sort of greening up our community, and that this is one way to do it. So, I mean, to your point, I think we're thinking about how do we broaden the engagement of community members in these issues. So yes, I think the date we're proposing, looking at is sort of mid November and on a weekend. And
So I was just going to say, Sophie, when you get, before you purchase anything like bags or gloves, or you need a pickup of some of that stuff, contact me and I'm sure we can help you with some of that, even come by with a truck and get whatever you picked up and that kind of thing.
Awesome. That was another area we were kind of interested in too. We didn't know how we dispose of everything. We were going to actually reach out and ask if that was something that the DPW would be able to help out with. Or it was kind of more so like we weren't sure like what our interest or participation would be and how much we'd actually be able to collect. If it were like small amounts, we could probably take it home and dispose of it like by ourselves. But if it was a bigger turnout, then we definitely reach out and see if you'd be in assistance.
If you look at those woods down there next to the Woodville School, I think that we'll be able to, we're going to take you up on that, Ann, because there's a lot of trash in there.
Yes.
And there's just been trash for a long time. And I think that, the goals are just to sort of get kids involved, get families involved, but also like, the thought is, I think if we could do a green up once, hopefully it will be, easier to maintain it.
The only thing I would say, if you're planning to do it in November, there's probably gonna be a lot of leaves on the ground, so it may be difficult to spot the trash and pick it up.
Good. Thank you for that feedback. That is really helpful.
That's why a lot of trash cleanups are in the spring.
Yeah, we were thinking that when the snow melts. I mean, I think some of the motivation of the school-based one, and at least now, is that it would be awesome if our kids could use that space. So the Woodville doesn't have a lot of green space around it. At least sort of this is personally speaking, and I think the high school is a little bit the same. And so thinking about, are there ways that we can make with the limited green space that we have a little bit more welcoming to kids before it snows? I mean, obviously when it's snowing, they're not going in there, but there were some classes last year that used those woods as a part of their education plan. And the kids would go in there and they look at the stream, but then, I as a parent looked down there and I'm like, oh my God, there's so much trash down there too. So I think that was our motivation for the fall, and we're just sort of slow to get moving, but we'll take that back, Melissa. And,
are you thinking about pairing it with the school calendar? So I'm just thinking like November 11th is actually a no school day.
Yeah, I saw that.
And
Veterans Day.
November 3rd is an early release day. So if you're targeting kids to volunteer, it's a nice time to probably do it, is they've got nothing else to do that day.
Yeah, I mean, we were
And
thinking
parents
about
are looking for
a
ways
weekend.
to be active.
Yeah. I think we were initially thinking a weekend so that families and, we don't have to compete with darkness, which comes pretty early these days. But I think the 11th is another thing to think about. And I think some of the messaging around Veterans Day is about sort of day of service. And so I think that could be an option and tie in together.
The only issue with the 11th is that I will not be around. I'm gonna
Well,
be in
that's a big
Spain.
issue.
So that might not work, but if I could set everything up and I don't want to like leave and have everyone else responsible for my side of the work. So yeah, the 11th I will not be in the country.
Ooh, that sounds exciting. All right, so we just wanted, and so then I think the other thing that we're working on, or I'm thinking about in terms of that committee, and I too have not sort of pulled it together, is around the Facebook messaging. And so I think I need to, create a calendar again. I've been really slacking on my Facebook posts. So if there's anything coming up or anything that you're aware of in the community, that you would like to have highlighted, just send it my way. So, and then I'll also for the next meeting, bring a calendar like we did in the past, and just think about what are the issues that we want to highlight through that modality, because we've been, I have not been on top of it as I wanted to be.
How about the no idling?
What?
How about the no idling?
No idling, I'm in. And if anybody else wants to be a Facebook poster person, I think that there is permissions sprinkled throughout the committee, but if you're not currently able to post and you would like to, just let me know and I'll figure out with Jen how to make that happen. I welcome their perspectives. Well, and the posting and the work to do that.
Thinking of upcoming town events, is the holiday stroll happening this year? Does anyone know? Is that back?
I don't know.
And do you know if they've?
Sorry, I haven't heard anything yet about it.
Okay. Just thinking about, other public events.
On that note, last couple of years, we did the pumpkin drop, right, with Black Earth.
That's the next item.
compost. Oh, sorry. I probably should have.
That's great. See
Go ahead.
Rob has been talking to Black Earth. They are happy to do the pumpkin drop for those who are newer members of the committee. We have done an event in the past years where we put sort of large tarps in front of all the elementary schools, and people can bring in their pumpkins immediately following Halloween that they otherwise would throw in the trash. And Black Earth Compost comes and picks it up. And in the past, we've saved, it's been I think last year, this is off the top of my head, was something like 2,600 pounds of pumpkins that were saved out of the waste stream. And it's also, I think people have really enjoyed it. And so Rob has been coordinating with Black Earth. They are available to do it on November 5th, which is a Friday. And so I think our thought is to do that again. That's sort of under the sort of engagement of the public. I think we will need some volunteers if we do this to help just load the trucks, and we can get more information on the timing, but just sort of showing up to move this large pile of pumpkins at each school into the truck.
I will advocate that moving the pumpkins into the truck is a little bit of fun, to throw and smash pumpkins into the truck.
It is pretty fun. I did it with my kids last year, and it was enjoyable. So I guess I didn't put vote anticipated on this one, but is there any objection to doing the pumpkin pickup? Or any concerns about it?
Is there any way we can get the pumpkins that are part of the library's pumpkin display? Or do those go home to kids?
They go home. They go home. They put them up there. I'm not sure it's even happening this year, but they put them up there.
Oh, it is. No, it's back according to Facebook.
Oh, nice. And then they take them home that night. If I'm Sophie, am I or Nick, am I lying about that? I think that's
No,
like
that's true. Yes,
people-
everyone takes them home.
Okay.
And the ones that don't get picked up, I'm pretty sure other people do take them, like different residents. Like if they like one, they take it after the students come and don't take it.
Okay, so those could end up being composted via going home and then, okay, excellent.
All right, so hearing no objection or concerns, I think I'll tell Rob to go ahead, and then we'll just follow up if anybody has any time on, I don't know exactly what time on the day that the collection happens, but I'll get some more information from him on that. And if you're able to join, that's great. Or if you can think about others who might be available, with, we welcome the help. Updates. So first of all, I want to add one other update, which I think is relevant to the land preservation work as well. I did have a little bit of a conversation with an individual on the planning board. I was thinking about this agenda and whether it made sense to have the planning board come and talk, since I've heard that they're working on some zoning around the lake. So they are working on a potential bylaw change that will come to the spring committee, the spring town meeting, excuse me. And so I think that's a little bit, they're still working on it, but I think collaboration with the planning board as we go forward would be helpful, as they're thinking about ways to protect the sort of larger lake region of town in order to protect the water quality of the lake. But I think that they're still working on it, and so we'll think about as they go forward and as we go forward, thinking about ways to collaborate on that effort. We've talked about a number of these. The green community application, I know Julie's not here, but they are voting tonight on the fleet policy, which my understanding is one of the last big pieces. I don't know, Tom, if you know about the plan for greenhouse gas reduction.
I know that the data is, either almost completed to be loaded or is completed to be loaded into the MEI system, whatever the reporting system is from the various, buildings in town, to give us our baseline for the application. So that data will be used as the baselining to, get our, from there, we have to do the 20% reduction from that baseline once we are voted in or accepted as a green community. So, and that's a collaborative effort across, DPW, gas and light, town, because it, kind of touches all those building, school department, as well.
And I'm wondering, do you know, I mean, there are significant, so my understanding is that we're on track to submit the green communities application this calendar year.
Yes.
And is there planning underway for how the grant resources will be used to improve or to meet our greenhouse gas goals?
I believe there is planning. I am not, tightly in tune to that, so I can't really speak to that. But I know that there is, stuff is talked about. Whether it is directly in conjunction with the green communities or just in general as well. But I don't have any specific updates on those plans.
Great. Maybe I'll check in with Julie and maybe we can talk about it at our next meeting. Because I do feel like that might be this committee might have a role in there too, as we think about priorities.
Absolutely. Yep, it's going to take a village.
Yes, indeed. But having grant funds helps the village move along a little faster.
Absolutely.
Styrofoam and plastic bylaw, Melissa, I feel like you gave an update, which was very helpful. Do you have anything else to add?
Nope, that's it.
Great. The building committees, I know, Robin, you attended the first community sort of catch-up event. Do you have anything else? And we put the vocational school in here too. I know the Gas and Light has been involved at least somewhat in the planning for the vocational school building.
Yes, so I attended the September 23rd kind of meet the architects meeting. Smaller group than I would have thought of people attending, but it is, just kind of the first and nothing to present other than kind of them, saying here's the overview and promises of lots of community meetings in the near future, but no schedule has been outlined yet. And it was brought up on kind of coordinating the high school with the VOTEC on many issues related to traffic patterns and other things. So I think someone already, Susie said that their SMA is doing the existing condition studies now. That takes a few months, but it'll happen simultaneously, I'm sure, with these kind of community meetings. So more to come very soon, I'm sure.
And then just an update from Gas and Light on that specific. The Gas and Light department also signed by the board as well. We sent the vocational school committee, the building committee for the school, or the state and local representatives in government around a letter around energy usage and the building and Gas and Light's involvement with them. We've been working with them as well, but just kind of opportunities that we see that they could take to tighten up the building and bring it more in line with the state's goals, with the 2030 goal and the 2050 goal, where right now the building plans, while it is LEED silver, don't necessarily line up with the state's goals. So we sent a letter to them, offering our assistance and helping them out with that where we can. So, and it may be, maybe something for, Myra, I think I sent you a letter, but maybe, we as in the ESC also send a, similar letter from this body as well. So maybe it's something to put on an agenda
Yes.
for next month to vote on and to move forward with.
Yes, thank you. Thank you for the reminder. Student, so Sophie, you shared one update. Sophie or Nick, do you have other things you want to add for the student member comments?
Yes. So Addie and I, we both started doing recycling.
Oh, and Addie.
again. And so I know at our last meeting, we talked about how like food rescue and composting wasn't really an option at any of the under schools, like elementary level, because of the parent volunteers that would need to go into the school. But we kind of talked about how this could be more of an opportunity at the high school level because of like student volunteers, and it could be more student run. So we brought up this idea to our leader of recycling club, Miss Lopez, and she was 100% on board and was very much for it. In every meeting we've been having, she's been asking if we've gotten any updates about it or if we've progressed anything. So I just wanted to let you guys know that we are very much on board for it, and we have a bunch of volunteers like through recycling club that would also be interested in helping out if we have the opportunity to get like either food rescue or like composting or anything like that started at the high school.
That is amazing. Thank you for doing that. I mean, I guess food rescue, I can connect with you with Cheyenne,
Okay.
who was the community volunteer who really led it. I think she would be ready and eager. She was, thinking about restarting for this year and was sort of told to hold on a little bit. But I think that she, and, we think we have in some ways, some of the, we have little mini fridges and stuff that aren't being used elsewhere. I'll follow up with Robin with Black Earth around the composting. I mean, I'm just going to follow up with you two, if that's all right, and just sort of figure out what you need to do this. So I'm getting the sense that you are looking for some of the tools that we did at the other schools in order to replicate at the high school.
Yeah, just kind of like the layout or the foundation that we'd need to kind of build upon that. Because
Okay.
obviously we become self-sufficient once we've kind of implemented these programs and everything, but more so just kind of to get started and like stepping stones to get there.
Great. And I'm even wondering, I mean, there's a couple of compost buckets that I think are hanging out at the Woodville that are not currently being used that we could just roll across the parking lot. And so I will take that as a to-do to work with you and follow up with the two of you on how we can get you going on those based on the experience of the elementary schools.
All right, awesome. Thank you. That's all I had updates. I don't know if Addie or Nick had anything else.
I don't have anything specific. That sounds good though.
Yeah, Recycling Club meets bi-weekly and I missed last week, so it has been a while. But yeah, Miss Lopez is definitely like incredibly passionate about the food rescue program. Like she does not stop talking about it.
Love it. Well, I'm sure Cheyenne will be excited because it's something, I mean, she put a lot of work into it and setting it up in the elementary schools. And it is sort of almost when it can get to a point where it's sort of it doesn't take a lot of maintenance. It just sort of takes somebody to load into a refrigerator or something like that. So that's great. This meeting is very energizing for me. So thank you all. Public school, we have done, town council's not here. Tom, do you have additional updates?
Yeah, I have two updates. The Gas and Light Board next month will be reviewing kind of our energy efficiency program with potential changes coming in December for the next year, starting in January 2022. So if the members of the public are always welcome to our meetings. But if you have any thoughts or suggestions or would like to see, different componentry in the program, feel free to reach out to myself or any other Gas and Light board member. And tying into the idling portion, Gas and Light, we are planning on adopting the proposed sustainable fleet policy, but as a company, we will be, following that, and we want to be leaders in that space. So Gas and Light has committed to adopting the practices to minimize greenhouse gas emissions by purchasing or leasing the BEVs, and when able, plug-in hybrids as well, and minimizing miles traveled and minimizing idling. Already starting to take kind of the lead in that, kind of exciting. We've purchased our first plug-in hybrid bucket truck. This is more of a trouble truck, so it's one of the smaller ones, think like the Verizon trucks. And one of the neat things about this truck, it'll be delivered in July, is it doesn't idle when being utilized. So when the boom is in operation, that boom is operating on battery, so the truck does not need to idle with that. So that's pretty exciting. And then kind of moving in the spirit of the policy, we actually canceled the manager's vehicle. It's I forget what his vehicle's over 225,000 miles. We were just purchasing a hybrid for that. We've canceled that order and now are ordering a plug-in hybrid to replace that vehicle. We leased a 2015 Nissan Leaf to assist with COVID as well to supplement. And we have placed 2 orders for the new F-150 Lightning truck, which is an all-electric pickup truck. Delivery is expected towards the end of 2022 with that as well. So kind of updates, Gas and Light wants to lead the way in kind of the vehicle policy. So question.
Great, thank you. Are you going to give tours of your new plug-in F-150s when you get them?
I think they will. One of the things that was, the dealers, for the farmers market used to bring the electric vehicles in for tours and demo, and there are no vehicles out there. I am sure that Gas and Light would be very happy to, have those vehicles available for, a farmer's market or two to show off.
Robin, did you have a question?
No, hit the wrong button as I type.
Okay. That's all my updates.
Can I ask one question? And you may not have this data in front of you, which is fine. But at least as an electric car driver, we often bring I see a lot of traffic at, especially a farmer's market, in the chargers. Do you have a sense of sort of how the utilization of those chargers has been? And are we seeing...
To have, let me bring that up. So we get a monthly dashboard. So we have seen an uptick in driving sessions. So for example, in June there was just under 100 sessions. In July, just over 100 sessions. August, almost 200 sessions. And this is cumulatively across all three. And then September, which is, this report was pulled early September, we had just already crossed over 100. So we are definitely seeing an upward trend of utilization of the public chargers. So
Great.
It makes sense. There's a lot more EVs out there, and people are moving around a lot more as well.
Great, thank you. And do you have a DPW update?
I do. I have two things. One, we started organic pickups at the food pantry today. So we contracted with Black Earth and we'll have them pick up on a weekly basis, 1 64-gallon toter. So that's exciting.
Does that cover the food pantry in addition to the Americo?
It's really just for the food pantry.
Nice.
I think it started last March and then COVID hit and I think things got whatever, but we've got them back on track and they got their bucket this week.
Great.
And then the second is we did receive a Trex bench and we assembled it. And now we're just wondering where you want the Trex bench placed.
I think we had talked about the schools, right?
So we only got one. So I'm at this point, so.
Yeah, I don't remember. Did we talk through which school should take priority? I want to say Greenwood, but I'm not sure.
I don't think we did talk through, and I thought we were going to get more than one, but I mean, we could also just reach out to the principals and see who responds first.
Expecting to get more, I agree. I thought we were supposed to get more because of the amount we donated.
Yeah, I thought we were getting 4 or 5, and that was kind of like, we were just like, well, let's just put one at every, elementary.
So more are probably coming. It's probably just a sequencing thing because of the timing.
I'm not sure. I have done Trex benches in the past in another city, and they only would give one bench a year.
Okay.
But I'm not sure if things have changed because they may have more or COVID or whatever, but that had been what we had gotten in the past.
Okay.
I guess, are we allowed to be the one to dictate it? I mean, isn't this something that...
I was gonna say we should probably assess with the schools, like who needs one? Do they even want it? I assume so, but yeah, I don't think we ever did a formal vote or anything, but yeah, I think we would want to coordinate with the school on this. I know Susie's not here anymore.
Yeah, I'll check with Susie and see if there's a process for this and what that might look like. So let me check with her. I don't feel like it's something that we need to necessarily vote on as a committee. And by the way, just so first of all, so those of you who might be newer to the committee, This was the result of the plastic bags that the town collected. We had a big bin at town hall for months, and the town collected plastic bags. And DPW kindly brought them to Home Depot, and so it was a whole Trex program, and we got a free bench because of it. And so that's the bench that we're talking about.
Did you know that Home Depot is no longer doing that program? Not the bench piece, but even the recycle piece. So I brought this giant bag of bags and I said, oh, we don't do that anymore. We don't accept
So
those.
it's only Reading, and the vibe I got, because I did the same thing, is that the staff are not interested, but it doesn't mean that company is not interested. But you could still take it to all your grocery stores and their bag collection.
Yeah.
So.
So what I've discovered is, Home Depot, Lowe's, Shaw's, all have just a self-service bin, but it doesn't take, it probably has the volume of a large trash bag. So if you take smaller volumes of bags, you can fit them in, not as economical, from a trip perspective. So I haven't had any problems doing it that way, but Mary, I had the same kind of disinterest from the staff, I'll call it, when I brought a big bag in. So just a tip. And actually also on a just slightly different topic on that, what I discovered, I was looking for e-recycling of, just households electronics. And I did not know this, but Staples has an e-recycling program. You literally bring in computer, laptop, DVD player, whatever you have that's of e-waste, and you just bring it in and they will recycle it for you. So any consumer type electronics.
Do they charge you?
Nope. It's a corporate, like if you go Google like Staples e-recycling, they have a whole page on it and their commitment of how many tons that their goal is to collect a year.
Sounds like another good post.
Yes. I also think that there's a collection in Reading this weekend, but I'm going to learn more. I saw a sign. All right, so I lost my train of thought. I will follow up on the bench specifically and try to find the best process to place the bench, and then sort of do some publicity. I think there were some people that were really excited about the bench and certainly very excited about the opportunity to recycle plastic bags. And so I think we should circle back to that idea of recycling, but I think in the meantime, we should get the bench somewhere. And I assume, Anna, it's a safe appearing bench. We didn't really know not much about it.
It's a very nice bench. Yes.
Great. So we'll try to get that out of DPW's storage space soon and get it to
No,
a
that's
school.
fine. I'll try to get you a picture and send it to you.
Great. Thank you.
Another post.
Yeah. Myra, around that, maybe we should employ Jen's help to, kind of, as you're saying, promote that and, make a splash about it.
Yeah.
I think the publicity will be good.
Yeah, that I'm thinking like maybe the Greenwood Pollinator Garden, because I know they put a lot of work into making that spot. Although they do have benches there. So
that was the original thought when we talked about it.
It's great.
I would just say if people remain non-committal on knowing how to do it, could we say that the pumpkin collection, the prize is the bench? Whoever brings the most quantity of pumpkins, because there was kind of an informal kind of, trying to advocate folks, but could we use that as a prize?
So Woodville's a lot bigger than,
Oh, the Woodville has never shown up 100%.
Oh, really?
Don't overcommit. Oh no, the Woodville's had a little bit of a hard time with this particular one, but we did a lot better in year 2 than year 1.
So maybe it's the incentive, and I walk around with my dog and see how many neighbors just have pumpkins as, lawn ornaments. And so, there may be more pumpkins available than kids, but that's, they can ask their neighbors, are you done with your pumpkins? So maybe not the size of the school matters. I don't know.
The only, just, I know, and I don't know how this works I know Canterbury, also participates in the pumpkin collection. So I don't know, like, being a private entity, if they're eligible to participate or not, like, so just.
Oh, yeah, I didn't
That's
know.
cool.
Yeah, never mind.
It's just a thought that I had.
Yes, yes, and Canterbury has done in the past better in their pumpkins than the Woodville. But we're working on it. All right, so I will see what I can learn about the process. There may have to be a gift process to the school. I'm not exactly sure, but I think that there probably is a process that we need to learn, and I will learn it. I guess I will say, do you all feel comfortable with making that decision offline, or do you feel like we need to vote on it as a committee?
Totally offline.
Okay,
Whoever wants to.
I'm not the procedure expert, so.
I don't think we're granted the right to
Okay,
do it.
great.
I don't know. I mean, anyone else, but it's not for us to.
Yeah, it was a townwide initiative. It was the residents who collected the bags. So I don't know.
Okay, great.
The town council or school committee may have to officially accept it as a gift, depending on where it's placed, or both maybe, if it has to be town council, accept it as a town, and then school committee because it's going on school committee, going on school property. We'll have to learn that process.
Yes.
Tom Mullen, if you email Tom Mullen, he'll let you know what the process is. Yeah.
Okay, great. So our next meeting is scheduled for November 11th. That is Veterans Day. So I don't know if that is a problem for anyone. I should say, is that a problem for anyone? The second
We know Sophie.
Thursday? What?
Sophie said she's gone.
Now Sophie's gonna be out of the country. And I don't imagine you want to call in from where we're gonna be.
Myra, I will not be able to make the 11th either, but that's, don't make the decision based on me.
Okay,
I am similarly not available on the 11th.
okay. That will get us close to a quorum. So is there if we did it on the first Thursday or the third Thursday, that would be better?
I wouldn't be available the first Thursday, which is the 4th. But I could do the 3rd.
Okay, I might just do a doodle poll or something.
I could do that Thursday,
Okay,
the third
I
Thursday.
know we're getting close to the holiday.
Yeah, 18th works for me.
Okay. Great. Other matters not anticipated. I feel like this was a meeting where we sort of covered a lot of ground. And did a lot of updates. So I appreciate all of you joining and participating and sharing ideas. It feels like we have a lot that we're working on, which feels really great.
I motion to adjourn.
I second that.
All right, I'll go by my screen, which is Anne,
Yes.
Melissa,
Yes.
Mary,
Yes.
Robin,
Yes.
Tom,
Yes.
Addie, and Nick and Sophie can just give me like a thumbs up, thumbs down. Sean,
Yes.
and I'm a yes. Have a great night.